Hello, students. Thank you so much for joining today's volunteer program. And I would like to inform that today we'll be doing a Sri Lankan O-level grade 10 syllabus. And it will be a long 45 minutes, 1 hour session. And I'll then continue on with this series. So this is done by myself as a volunteer program, so it's totally free. And if you need to know anything, I'll mention my number as well, so you can contact me. Um, Without further ado, I'll introduce myself first and then move into the lesson. So, I'm Mihini Singha. I'm currently attending high school in another country. And I did my local O-levels in Sri Lanka, um, in a government school in Colombo, and I got 9 A's, A for science as well. So I believe that with my knowledge, I'll be able to help you guys out with the O-level syllabus. I'll try my best to explain everything in English and Sinhala both. Explanation I can do, but since I did my O-levels in English medium, it's kind of hard for me to teach like the terms in Sinhala. So I hope you guys understand that as well. And I'm doing this for my college application as a volunteer program, as a volunteer YouTube channel. And also, this would be done for like I would continue this all along, and I hope you guys would take something from this. I'll do my best to teach you guys with my knowledge, with my experience. I am a 2024 student, so the batch that recently got results. I'll introduce myself in Sinhala as well, so it would be easy for, if anyone is it's kind of hard to understand what I'm telling. හෙලෝ මම මිහිනි ඇදිරිසිංහ මම දැනට පිටරටක හයිස්කූල් එක ඉගෙන ගන්න ගමන් ඉන්නේ. මම එක කරන්නේ මගේ කොලේජ් ඇප්ලිකේෂන් එකේ කොලිෆිකේෂන්යක් විදිහට වොලන්ටියර් සර්විස් ඕන වෙන නිසා සහ ලංකාවේ ටියුෂන් වලට අමතරව නැත්තම් ටියුෂන් යන්න නැතුව උදව් හොයන එක්කෙනෙක් ටීචර් කෙනෙක් හොයනවා කියන කට්ටියට තමයි මම මේක කරන්නේ වොලන්ටියර් විදිහට ෆ්‍රී කරන්නේ. මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා නම් මම පහලින් මගේ නම්බර් එක දාන්නම්. ඒකට ඕනනම් WhatsApp message එකක් දාන්න කෝල් කරන්න එපා. ආන්සර් කරන්න බෑ මොකද අර countries වල difference එක හින්දා. ඒ වගේම තමයි මේක මම දිගටම කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. මම මෙතන O level grade 10 and 11 syllabus එකත් ලන්ඩන් එඩෙක්සල් O-level එඩෙක්සල් O-level biology chemistry physics කියන subjects තුනක් කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. එතකොට මම මේක කරන්න නම් ඉංග්‍රීසි මීඩියම් මොකද මම ගැන කිව්වොත් මම 2024 මේ ළඟදී රිසල්ට්ස් ආපු බැච් එකේ තමයි රිසල්ට්ස් ආවේ මට A9ක් තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඒ ආපු අත්දැකීමත් එක්ක මම ඒක ඉංග්‍රීසි මීඩියම් සයන්ස් කරේ. ඉතින් මට සිංහල ටර්ම්ස් ඇත්තටම මම වැඩි දන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි මට එක්ස්ප්ලেইন කරන්න පුළුවන් සිංහලෙන්. ඒක නිසා මම පුළුවන් උපරිම උත්සාහ දෙන්න සිංහල මීඩියම් අයටත් තේරුම් ගන්න පුළුවන් විදිහට කරන්න. එහෙනම් ඒක තමයි මම ගැන කියන්න තියෙන්නේ. මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා නම් මම ඉස්සෙල්ලා කිව්වා වගේ මගේ WhatsApp නම්බර් එකට මෙසේජ් එකක් දාන්න මම ඕනලා උදව් කරන්න කැමතියි. ඒ වගේම තමයි මට නෝට් එක නම් ප්‍රොවයිඩ් කරන්න බැරි වුණා. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට නෝට් එකක් ඕන නම් මට පහලින් කමෙන්ට් එකක් දාන්න නෝට්ස් ඕනේ කියලා. නැත්තම් මම මෙහෙම කියලා දෙන ගමන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ නෝට් එක හදාගත්තොත් හොඳයි කියලා තමයි මම හිතන්නේ. මොකද මම මගේ එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් එකෙන් මම එකක් කතා කරන්න 9 years experience එක. ඉතින් මම 9 years ඇත්තටම ගත්තේ මම අවුරුදු දෙකකටම ක්ලාස් ගියේ අන්තිම මාස 4-5. ඒ කියන්නේ මම O levels කෙනෙක් grade 6 වලට ගියාට පස්සේ ශිෂ්‍යත්වයෙන් පස්සේ මම වෙන ඉස්කෝලේකට ගියා කොළඹ. මම හිටියේ ශ්‍රීමා බණ්ඩාරනායක විද්‍යාලයේ. එතනින් තව ඉදිරියේ පාසලකට ගියා. ඉතින් ඒකෙන් පස්සේ මම grade 6 වල ඉඳන් ක්ලාස් ගියේ නැහැ. ඊට පස්සේ මම අන්තිමට ආයි ක්ලාස් යන්න පටන් ගත්තේ grade 11 වල. ඕලෙවලට මාස 3ක් විතර තියලා. ඉතින් ඇත්තටම ඒක ගැන කතා කරද්දී මම ඒක ගැන ටක් ගාලා විස්තර කියන්න. ඕලෙවල් වලට ඇත්තටම මම ලොකු මේකක් එෆර්ට් එකක් යෙදුවේ නෑ මුල් ටික. ඒ කියන්නේ ග්‍රේඩ් 10 වල ප්‍රිෆෙක්ට්ෂිප් වගේ දේවල් තිබ්බා. ඊට පස්සේ මම වෙන බාහිර ක්‍රියාකාරකම් ගොඩක් කරනවා. ඉතින් ඒවත් එක්ක ඇත්තටම මට පන්තියේ ලකුණු මම ගොඩක් අඩු මට්ටමක හිටියේ. සයන්ස් වලට නම් ලකුණු තිබ්බ 80 ගණන්. ඊට පස්සේ ග්‍රේඩ් 11 වලදී මැත්ස් වලට ලකුණු අඩුවෙන් තිබ්බා. පස්සේ ග්‍රේඩ් 11 වලට යනකොට ඒත් ඒතර සයන්ස් වලට ලකුණු බැස්සා. ඉතින් ඊට පස්සේ තමයි මම ග්‍රේඩ් 11 වල මම හිතන්නේ සෙකන්ඩ් ටර්ම් ඉඳන් තමයි ක්ලාස් යන පටන් ගත්තේ. ඉතින් මැත්ස් වල මම ඇත්තටම මගේ මැත්ස් මික්ස් මතක් ගන්න ඕනේ. මම නම කියන එකට හරිය නැත්නම් දන්නේ නිසා මම කියන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ වුණාට ඒ මිස් නිසා තමයි ඇත්තටම මගේ මැත්ස් මට ඒකක් ආවේ. සයන්ස් වලටත් එහෙමයි. සයන්ස් වලට තව දෙයක් මම කරපු දෙයක් තමයි මම නෝට්ස් ඇත්තටම මම දුන්න ක්ලාස් එකේ දුන්න නෝට්ස් ගොඩක් බැලුවේ නැහැ. මම කරේ මම අහන් ඉන්න වෙලාවට ලියාගත්තා සහ මතක තියාගත්තා ලේසි ක්‍රම වලින්. ඒ කියන්නේ මේක මෙහෙම වෙනවා නම් මෙහෙම විය යුතුයි එහෙම එහෙම කියලා මතක තියාගත්තා. ඒකෙන් තමයි අත්‍තරම සයන්ස් වල මම හිතන්නේ මගේ ඒක ගොඩක් තහවුරුනේ. ඒ අර ඒක හැම එකක් අතරම සම්බන්ධතාවය මෙයා කරන. ඉතින් මම ඉදිරියට යනකොට O level වලට ටිප්ස් සහ උදව් වෙන දේවල් කියන්නම්. එහෙම තමයි. ඉතින් අපි එහෙනම් ඔයගොල්ලෝ මාත් එක්ක ඉඳී කියලා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. මොකද ෆ්‍රී කරන්නේ මොන හරි අවුලක් තියෙනවා නම් මට කියන්න. එතකොට මම ඒකටත් මොකක් හරි විදිහක් හොයන්න. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කියලා දෙන්න. මොකක් හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහන්න තියෙනවා නම් O level සම්බන්ධව නැත්නම් සයන්ස් වල O level questions මොන හරි තියෙනවා නම් මට කියන්න. මම පුළුවන් විදියට උදව් කරන්න. හැමදෙස්සෙම නම් බැරි වෙයි. මොකද මටත් ඉස්කෝලේ කියන්නේ මම තාම last 2 years ඉන්නේ high school වල. ඉතින් මගේ college application එක පුරවන්න දැන් 2 years volunteers ඕනේ. ඒ වගේ මම තව මේ වගේ කියන්නේ volunteer classes කරනවා languages වලට English and Korean. ඔයගලන්ට ඕන නම් ඒකට join වෙන්න ඕන නම් මට WhatsApp message එකක් දාන්න. ඒකේ අත්‍තරම අපි ඉන්ස්ටිටියුට් එකක් විදිහට යන තමයි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන. තාම පටන් ගෙන නැහැ. ළඟදීම පටන් ගන්නවා. ඉතින් දැනට Korean, Japanese, English කියන languages තුන තමයි කරන්නේ. ඉතින් ඒක නම් online live Zoom meeting අරගෙන තමයි කරන්නේ. මේ ඔයගලන්ට එහෙම ඒ O level කොරියන් එහෙම මොන හරි එකක් ඕනේ නම් මට මෙසේජ් එකක් දාන්න. අපි ඒක සම්බන්ධ කරලා දෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ වැඩ කට් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මම පුළුවන් ඉලාවට උදව් කරන්න මෙසේජ් එක කියවන්නම් උත්තර දෙන්න. එහෙනම් let's move on to the lesson guys. Hi. I think you guys can see that our first lesson in grade 10 is a biology lesson called Chemical Basis of Life. So this is a very simple and very easy um, lesson where it actually depends on how much you study this chapter. So this chapter is really hectic because at the last part of this chapter there are like various um diseases associated with various types of maybe bacteria, then various diseases, vitamins, and like a whole table of stuff that you have to study. But at the same time, this is a very interesting lesson as your first lesson, and it's a biology lesson, of course. So we need like this is very important for latter parts of the syllabus. So and also please remember that most of the time in O-level examination, at least like 2 questions come from this chapter, like MCQs especially, it comes from this lesson. So it's very important for you guys to keep in mind. Like, do you know, I think this chapter at the first part, it's just, basic like general knowledge, but it's very important to like study, the last bits of this um chapter. So chemical basis of life. සිංහලෙන් කිව්වොත් මේකේ මේ පාඩම ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ පළවෙනි බයොලොජි පාඩම. එතකොට මේකෙන් සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ප්‍රශ්න දෙකක් වගේ MCQ එකට අනිවාර්යෙන් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. O levels වල. ඉතින් ඒකේ අන්තිමට යනකොට ටිකක් ආස නැති පාර්ට්ස් ගොඩක් තියෙනවා කියලා මම දන්නවා. මොකද මමත් අන්තිම මොහොතේ තමයි ඒක පාඩම් කරේ. අවුරුදු ගානටම පාඩම් නොකර ඉඳලා. අර ලොකු ටේබල්ස් වගේ දේවල්. ඉතින් පාඩම් කරමුනේ. ගොඩක් මම කියන්න නම් ගොඩක් මැරෙන්න එපා ඕලෙවල්ස් වලට. මොකද ඊට වඩා දේවල් තමයි ඉදිරියට තියෙන්නේ. ඊට වඩා අමාරු දේවල්. ඒ වුණාට ඕලෙවල්ස් වලට ඇත්තටම අන්තිම මාස 6 මහන්සි වුණොත් ගොඩ දාගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ කියන්නේ දැනට කරන දේවල් මතක තියාගෙන ගිහිල්ලා එහෙම කරලා පුළුවන්. ඉතින් අපි බලමු. The bodies of all organisms are composed of variety of chemical compounds. So, um, considering our global structure and the living environment, non-living environment, everything, we can understand that the world is composed of various chemical compounds and when like chemically. So, guys, in the natural environment, these chemical compounds are bonded together and it exists as the structures as single chemical compounds and bonded chemical compounds. So, it is very important for us to learn about these chemical compounds. In like, because in every occasion, everything is associated with this chemical compound as well in science. So, we can see that usually in like the living body, so like there are like around 92 elements present in the environment. So like surrounding us there are around 92 elements present, and inside our body there are around 25 elements, which is like we use it in our body for various functions, excretion maybe, um, um, breathing and respiration and all types of functions. So these elements help us in day-to-day life and even surrounding for various activities surrounding us. These chemical compounds are really important. And we can see that usually these chemical compounds exist in our body in like different areas and different forms. So we cannot see them obviously, and it depends on the chemical to chemical. It depends on how it exists and how it is used as well. So there are four main one second. Can you guys see this screen? One second, I'm sorry. Yeah. So in the environment you can sorry so in living bodies, so in our bodies we can see four main elements, which is like the majority of the whole body, and a whole body is consisting of these four elements mainly. So these elements are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. So the most in our body is oxygen, because as you guys know, we do respiration. So we take oxygen in, right? And for various activities in our body, we need oxygen a lot. So in this diagram as well, in the textbook, you can see that there's a structure of and like a structure of how oxygen, carbon, and everything is divided into, and the percentages. So sometimes you can be asked how much of percentage is nitrogen in this. So I would recommend you guys to like keep in mind, okay, 65% oxygen, 18% carbon, and etc. etc. And you can say that most is oxygen, and then there are carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen. So these are the four main elements, right? And in this 100% of the body, you can see there's an extra 4%, right? So this extra 4% is for the other elements. So we previously told we have like 25 elements, right? So in this 25 elements, if we take out 4, there's like remaining 21 elements, right? So these 21 elements are the elements that are in the other part. So these elements are like potassium, phosphorus, sodium, sulfur, and calcium, which is needed for our body but does not exist it as a majority but just a minority for simple tasks in the human body. So I recommend you guys to remember oxygen is 65%, nitrogen is 18%, hydrogen is 10%, and nitrogen is 3%, and the others are 4%. So moving on to this, so there are two main groups when we take as chemical compounds. So there are organic chemical compounds as well as inorganic chemical compounds. This is a very simple, there's a very simple definition for this. And for O-level exam, for the ordinary level exam, you might be asked, what is an inorganic compound? What is an organic compound? So the basic answer you could say is compounds which contain carbon are known as organic compounds, and compounds which do not contain carbon are inorganic compounds. So this is basically it, guys. So if you take, so as told, the compounds can be divided into two. So this compound is divided into two as carbon. Carbon is C. So carbon is an element in the periodic table that you will be learning in chapter 3. So we'll be learning the chemistry lesson. So carbon is basically one of the most important parts of our body. So as you can see here as well, carbon has an 18%. So it's actually important for our body, right? So 1 second. Just remember always compounds can be chemical compounds can be divided into two parts, that is organic compounds as well as inorganic compounds. So organic is carbon containing compounds and inorganic is without carbon, or carbon in the compounds without consistence of carbon. So also there's an exception for this carbon containing compound, the compounds without carbon. There's an exception because there are few inorganic matter that still contain carbon. So if you take these carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, carbonates, and bicarbonates, this is very important because there are instances where these questions might arise to you about what are the inorganic compounds that contain carbon. So that's basically the question, right? So I think it is better to remember carbonates, bicarbonates, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. It's just four, guys. So just remember organic compounds with organic compounds are compounds with carbon, and inorganic compounds are inorganic compounds are compounds without carbon, and there are some inorganic compounds that still contain carbon. That is carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, carbonates, and bicarbonates. So that's basically it. It's really easy for you guys to remember. So I'll quickly summarize in Sinhala as well. හරි එතකොට ඔගොල්ලෝ මේක බලනකොට අපිට මුලදී බලනකොට අපිට පේනවා අපේ ශරීරය සහ අපේ වටපිටාවේ තියෙන එන්වයරන්මන්ට් එක හැදිලා තියෙන්නේ විවිධ කෙමිකල් කම්පවුන්ඩ්ස් වලින්. හරිද? එතකොට මේ කෙමිකල් කම්පවුන්ඩ්ස් 92ක් අපේ මේ වටපිටාවේ එන්වයරන්මන්ට් එකේ එක්සිස්ට් වෙනවා. ඒකෙන් 25ක් අපේ ඇඟ ඇතුලේ තියෙනවා කියලා තමයි දැනට මේ පොතේ හැටියට හොයාගෙන තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට මේකෙන් වැදගත්ම වෙන හතරක් තමයි කාබන්, ඔක්සිජන්, හයිඩ්‍රජන්, නයිට්‍රජන් කියන්නේ. ඒ හතර තමයි අපේ ඇඟ ඇතුලේ වැඩියෙන්ම තියෙන කම්පවුන්ඩ්ස්, කෙමිකල් කම්පවුන්ඩ්ස් කියලා අපි හඳුන්වනවා. එතකොට ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මේකේ දීලා තියෙනවා ඩයග්‍රෑම් එකක්. එතකොට පයි chart එකක් වගේ එකක්. එතකොට 65% ඔක්සිජන් තියෙනවා. මොකද අපේ ඇඟේ ගොඩක්, ඒ කියන්නේ එදිනෙදා කටයුතු ගොඩකට ඔයගොල්ලොත් දන්නවා. එදිනෙදා කටයුතු ගොඩකට ඔක්සිජන් හරියට යූස් වෙනවා. අපි විවිධ ඒවට ඇඟ ඇතුලේ ඔක්සිජන් යූස් වෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ 65ක් ඔක්සිජන් තියෙනවා. 18ක් කාබන් තියෙනවා. 3ක් තියෙනවා නයිට්‍රජන්, 10ක් තියෙනවා හයිඩ්‍රජන්. ඊට පස්සේ ඔයගලන්ට මෙතන මේ පයි chart එකේ උනත් පේනවා 104ක් දීලා තියෙනවා others කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ වෙනත් ඒ. එතන මේ වෙනත් කියන ඒවාට තියෙන්නේ පොටෑසියම්, සෝඩියම්, ෆොස්ෆරස්, සල්ෆර්, කැල්සියම් ඒ වගේ අවශ්‍ය වෙන දේවල්. ඒතර මැග්නීසියම්, අයන්, ක්ලෝරින් වගේ දේවල්. ඒවා ඇඟට අවශ්‍යයි. ඒ වුණාට වැඩි වශයෙන් නැති ඒවා. එතකොට අපි මේකේ අපිට පේනවා කම්පවුන්ඩ්ස්, ඒ කියන්නේ කෙමිකල් කම්පවුන්ඩ්ස් දෙකකට බෙදෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ ඕගනික් කම්පවුන්ඩ්ස් සහ ඉනෝගනික් කම්පවුන්ඩ්ස් කියලා. මට සිංහල වචන ඇත්තටම මම දන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක නිසා මම ඉංග්ලිෂ් ඒ කියන්නේ ඉංග්ලිෂ් වලින් එක්ස්ප්ලেইন කරාම අමාරු අයට සිංහල වලින් එක්ස්ප්ලেইন කරන්නේ ඉංග්ලිෂ් මීඩියම් අයට පුළුවන් නම් සිංහල මීඩියම් වචනේ අවුලක් නැත්තම් අහන් ඉන්න. ඉතින් මේ කම්පවුන්ඩ්ස්, කෙමිකල් කම්පවුන්ඩ්ස් දෙකකට බෙදෙනවා. ඒක තමයි මූලිකවම බෙදෙන දෙක, ඕගනික් සහ ඉනෝගනික් කියලා. එතකොට මේ ඕගනික් කියන්නේ කාබන් කියලා එකක් තියෙනවානේ. කාබන් කියලා කෙමිකල් එකක් තියෙනවා. කෙමිකල් කම්පවුන්ඩ් එක. ඒක අපි දැන් 3 වෙනි පාඩමට යනකොට ඔයගොල්ලන්ට හම්බෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ කෙමිකල් කම්පවුන්ඩ් එක තියෙනවද නැද්ද කියන එක අනුව තමයි මේ ඕගනික් ඉනෝගනික් කියලා දෙකකට බෙදෙන්නේ. ඒතකොට ඕගනික් කියන්නේ කාබන් තියෙන කම්පවුන්ඩ්ස්. ඒ කියන්නේ ඕනම කම්පවුන්ඩ් එකක් ගත්තොත් මේ කාබන් තියෙනවද කියන එක බලලා තමයි ඕගනික් කම්පවුන්ඩ්ස් ගන්න. ඒතකොට ඉනෝගනික් කම්පවුන්ඩ්ස් කියන එක ගන්නේ ඒ කියන්නේ කාබන් නැති ඒවා. ඒතකොට කාබන් නැතිව ඉනෝගනික්, කාබන් තියෙන ඒවා ඕගනික්. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට අහන්න පුළුවන් ඕගනික් කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? ඉනෝගනික් what is inorganic, what is organic කියලා. එතකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ ලියන්නේ carbon containing and compounds without carbon. එතකොට මේකේ වෙනසක් වෙනවා carbonates, bicarbonates, carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide කියන හතර. ඒක මතක තියාගන්න. ඒක inorganic compound එකක්. ඒ වුණාට මෙතන විශේෂත්වය වන්නේ මේ inorganic compounds දැන් carbon monoxide කියවම carbon තියෙනවා. carbon dioxide CO2 තියෙනවා. CO කියන්නේ carbon monoxide. එතකොට ඒකක් තියෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ carbonates, bicarbonates ඒ වගේ ඔය හතරට දැන් carbonates තිබ්බත් ඒත් inorganic. ඒක විශේෂත්වයක් විදිහට තමයි මේකේ පෙන්නන්නේ. එතකොට we can see that there's a definition of biomolecules. අපිට පේනවා biomolecules කියලා එකක් තියෙනවා. These the organic compounds that build up the living body or living matter are known as biomolecules. So ඒ කියන්නේ අපගේ ඇඟ, ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ ශරීරය හදන living matter එකක් හරි අපේ ශරීරය නිර්මාණය කරන chemical compounds වල organic කියන කියන්නේ carbon containing හැමතිස්සෙම මතක තියාගන්න carbon containing ඒ කියන්නේ organic compounds that make up our living body or living matter is known as biomolecules. එතකොට අපි ඉදිරියට මේ biomolecules ගැන තමයි විශේෂයෙන් අවධානය කරන්නේ. ඉතින් ඒක නිසා ඒක මතක තියාගන්න අනිවාර්යයි. So guys, so this is biomolecules is basically the organic compounds, which is carbon containing compounds that make up our living body and living matter. So you might ask, like you might be asked, what is biomolecule, right? So that is basically the definition. Organic compound that make up our living body and living matter. So there are four that we are learning in this syllabus. So let's take into account carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. එතකොට carbohydrate, protein, lipid, nucleic acids වල නම් මම කියන සිංහලෙන් කියන නම දන්නේ නැහැ. කොහොමද nucleic acids එක තමයි යන්නේ. එතකොට මේවා තමයි මූලිකවම biomolecules කියලා ගන්නෙ. These are the four main biomolecules that we can find in our body and environment. Not body, I'm sorry. That we can find as biomolecules. So there's also a special type of organic compound in living matter, which are known as vitamins. Or some people in like American countries, you can hear like vitamins. So I'm just mentioning this. So vitamins, and this is also an organic compound. Also, there are inorganic molecules. Remember, the biomolecules are carbon containing, which is organic compounds, but there are also inorganic matter that is essential for our daily lives as carbohydrates and all. So there are water, minerals, and gases. So වතුර, minerals සහ gases කියන ඒවා අපිට ජලය කියන ඒවා අනිවාර්යෙන් අපේ ඇඟට අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා. ඒතර විටමින් කියන එකත් මතක තියාගන්න. දැන් අපි බයෝමොලිකියුල් එකක් කියන එක ඩිස්ක්‍රයිබ් කරේ carbon containing නැත්නම් organic compound making up our living body නේ. එතකොට vitamins කියන දේත් organic compounds එකක් විදිහට ගන්න පුළුවන් ඒ living matter වල හොයාගන්න එක. ඒක අර සයිඩ් එකේ නෝට් කරලා දෙනවා. එනකොට අපිට පස්සේ යනකොට විටමින්ස් කියන එකක් තියෙනවා. එතකොට මේක නම් එක්ස්ට්‍රා නොලෙජ් එකක්. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මේකෙන් නම් අහලා නැහැ කවදාවත්. ඔයගලන්ට ඕන නම් ඉතින් ඒක බලා ගන්න. මම නම් ඉච්චර ලොකු නම්දුවක් දැක්කුවේ නැහැ. මොකද ඇත්තට මේකයි මට තිබ්බ එක්ස්ට්‍රාත් එක්ක මං ඉතින් එච්චරට මේක ගැන හිතුවේ නැහැ. So guys, this is like an extra knowledge part. If you guys like, guys can read it, but it's not necessarily important to like study. As you guys want, you can focus on that. So the next part is carbohydrates. So carbohydrates, again, carbohydrate. This is like the most important and most abundant, which means like the most popular group on Earth, which organic compound. So a lot of stuff exists in carbohydrates as carbohydrates. So this is important mainly for what purpose? Photosynthesis in green plants. So this carbohydrates can be seen as a product of photosynthesis of green plants. So you can see some green plants given here. So you will learn what photosynthesis in future grades, and I'm sure that you guys already know by science last years, right? So basically the light and everything produces carbohydrates, which is the most abundant biomolecule, which is also very important for our bodies to function naturally. So the main thing that we can see here is this carbohydrates are composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So You might be asked to write the carbohydrate formula and what's in carbohydrates and like what elements are in carbohydrates. So always remember, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen are the most important, like are the three elements in carbohydrates. And there's a specialty in this because there's a 2-to-1 ratio of hydrogen and oxygen in this. So if you take into account, so like I told CHO, right? So carbon is C, hydrogen is H, and oxygen is O in our periodic table. So we have formulas for every chemical compound. That's a special thing in science. So everything is shortened and it's written in another form, which is like the chemical form. And here you can see there's a common molecular formula. Guys, remember, this formula is just in maths, you would say that it's like, just the formula that like x plus y. So like gives this answer, right? So imagine it's square root. So it's c squared equals um square root of a squared plus b squared, right? So that's basically it. So like it something like that. This is the common molecular formula, and like because people get this very confusing because there are other molecular formulas at the letter point, and like they get confused, like like where like why what should I write and all. So this is like the common molecular formula. Okay, so if they ask like there are three molecules, then you have to use this formula to derive the other. So remember, as I first said, CHO is in carbohydrates: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Then there is a 2-to-1 ratio of hydrogen and oxygen in this. What this means is when we take two hydrogens, there's one oxygen for every two hydrogens when they are bonding. So H2O, I'm sure you guys have heard H2O. What is H2O? It's water. H2O is the chemical formula of water, right? So in this, C doesn't change. C is directly the same as it goes as the number of molecules. But if you take H and O, if there are two hydrogens, you get one oxygen. For like every two, one oxygen. Okay. So that's the common molecular formula. So CX in brackets H2O and Y. So X is the number of molecules, Y is the number of molecules. And there will be a few calculations. I'll show you guys. So එතකොට අපිට බලන්න පුළුවන් මේකේ කාබන් හයිඩ්‍රජන් ඔක්සිජන් කියන තුන තමයි තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් මේක විශේෂත්වයක් ගන්න මේකේ දෙකට එක රේෂියෝ එක තියෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ හයිඩ්‍රජන් දෙකක් මොලිකියුල්ස් තියෙනවා නම් එකට ඔක්සිජන් එක මොලිකියුල් එකක් හම්බ වෙනවා. ඒතර මේවා මෙහෙම තමයි කම්බයින් වෙන්නේ කාබෝහයිඩ්‍රේට්ස්. ඒතර මේක මේ කොමන් මොලිකියුලර් ෆෝමියුලා කියන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඒක අහන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ කන්ෆියුස් කරගන්න එපා. කොමන් මොලිකියුලර් ෆෝමියුලා කියන්නේ අර ජෙනරල් විදිහට දෙන ෆෝමියුලා එක දැන්. ඒ ස්ක්වයර් මොකද්ද පයිතගස් තෙරෙම් එක දන්න කිව්වොත් ඒක c ස්ක්වයර්ඩ් සමානයි වර්ගමූලය a ස්ක්වයර්ඩ් ධන b ස්ක්වයර්ඩ් කියලා දනවනේ. අන්න ඒ වගේ මේක ඒ වගේ මොලිකියුලර් ෆෝමියුලා එකක්. ඒතර මේක යොදාගෙන අපිට හොයන්න පුළුවන් ඒගොල්ලෝ ගානක් දීලා තියෙනවා නම් මොලිකියුල්ස් 6ක කොහොමද කියලා. එතකොට අපිට හොයන්න පුළුවන් මේ 6ක් තියෙනවා මෙහෙම කියලා එහෙම හොයාගන්න පුළුවන්. So guys, we can see that carbohydrates is a very important part. So carbohydrates can be seen classified into three groups. For your grade level, there are three groups that is classified. And this is classified according to the how the building blocks of carbohydrates are made. Okay, so I will explain to you guys what this is about. Simple. So monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. In the name itself, you can see mono is 1, disaccharides is 2, polysaccharides is a large number, right? Poly is large. So monosaccharides, so these are very important. This C6H12O6, C12H222O11, C6H10O5N is like how much you have to multiply, like how many molecules. So monosaccharides you can see existing basically as this structure. So they are not combined together. They exist as one. So this is called the structural unit of a carbohydrate. So this is like the basic unit, the basic one that makes up the future disaccharides and polysaccharides, which bonds between each other and do like, a lot of things in our like in the carbohydrate phenomena. So just remember, monosaccharides are the single existing, or so here you can see they are commonly known as simple sugars, crystal shaped, generally sweet, and water soluble. So that is very important. Simple sugars and crystal shaped, sweet, and soluble in water. So there are three examples given as glucose, fructose, and galactose. So when I was in O level, like during the O level period, I remember I messed up these monosaccharides and disaccharides because it's basically like the same name, and like it's basically how these stuff are combined together, then disaccharides are made. So it's kind of confusing at first, but you will get a hang on it. So remember, glucose, fructose, and galactose are the most important carbohydrates, right? Most important monosaccharide carbohydrates. So monosaccharides are basically the structural unit that is consisted of like single ones. These get together to form a bond, right? So if this are monosaccharides, there's a bond and it forms a disaccharide if there's two or there are more. It forms a polysaccharide. So water soluble, sweet, crystal shape, simple sugars. So that's that's monosaccharides. So there's a table, guys, you can find that the type of monosaccharides, glucose, fructose, and galactose, and where it is present, ripened fruits, bee honey. Then for like the location it's present for these three, I think for glucose and fructose it's the same, but galactose there's a difference because this is in dairy products, and there's this difference because there's no sweet taste. Like it said, like there's a sweet taste, right? But in galactose you can find a sweet taste in the monosaccharide, and there's a word called hydrolysis that you see, right? So hydrolysis is basically breaking down of various polysaccharides, or not polysaccharides actually, disaccharides. So disaccharides, I told you, right? They are fixed, like the monosaccharides are fixed together. So disaccharides are made of two monosaccharides out of these stuff or some others, and then these are used in the body as disaccharides. So you can see that end product during hydrolysis of starchy food. So starch is a polysaccharide. So is glucose. So glucose is absorbed into blood. As you know, it's very important in our blood. Plants produce glucose during photosynthesis. So as before we said, plants produce carbohydrates. So glucose is the main monosaccharide that they produce. And when this glucose is broken down, it's used for cellular respiration. It is very important. This glucose is very important in our bodies. Then for fructose, it's basically like the sweetest ones, and the ones in, like this tasty sweet foods and sweet, fruits and everything. So it's basically ripened fruits, bee honey, pumpkin, carrots. And galactose, there's no sweet taste, and this is the end product of galactose and lactose. This is like the end product of lactose after breaking down by hydrolysis. So hydrolysis I don't think it's necessary to explain to you guys right now, but I just mentioned it's like breaking down of the bonds between, so between the two, yeah, two monosaccharides. It's just breaking down by using releasing water and stuff. You just don't need it at the moment, so I'll not yep, you can see it here actually. So monosaccharides join to form a disaccharide. During this process, a water molecule is released. That's what I told, like water is released. So in the same way, monosaccharides can be obtained by hydrolyzing disaccharides. So disaccharides are basically monosaccharides combined together. And when you hydrolyze disaccharides, the two one disaccharides, you can get a water molecule as well as a monosaccharide, right? So disaccharides are same, sweet, water soluble, and crystals. And you can see this is very important. You might be asked to you should write this down in your note because you might be asked to fill in the blanks or something. You might be. So monosaccharide combines to form disaccharide and a water molecule as mentioned previously. So a water molecule releases out while the disaccharide dissolves into two monosaccharides. And the chemical formula is written here because monosaccharide, you remember, C6H12O6, and it's multiplied by 2 because there are two monosaccharides, and then it forms C12H22O11. Guys, you can see here, right? Why 6 becomes 12, but H and O doesn't become 24 and 12. This is a very important part because you see H2O is released, right? So you must write C12H22O11 for disaccharide. It's the formula because H2O is definitely released at that point. So this is the formula, C12H22O11 of disaccharide, not C12, it's 24 or 22 or 12. No, it's totally wrong. Okay, if you write that, the whole formula is false. So remember, an H2O is always produced when these monosaccharides are combined, and then you can then the water molecule is released. So disaccharide is consisting of one molecule less of oxygen, H2O. So the formula changes. So there are three, as before as well: maltose, sucrose, and lactose. So maltose is glucose. So there's union of molecules. So here you can see glucose is the union of two glucose molecules, right? So remember this because they might ask you what is maltose made of. So it's found in germinating seeds. Guys, you should it's up to you, studying these parts, because I can explain to you, but it's actually easy, like when you study, it's just basic things. So union of two glucose molecules form a maltose molecule. So glucose combines together to produce maltose and water. So water, as we said, is where releases when here we can see during the process a water molecule is released. So yeah, so when you combine two monosaccharides, a water molecule is released. And as I said, hydrolysis is when you add a water molecule to the disaccharide, it breaks down into monosaccharides. That's a very important part, like that's not mentioned here, but if you remember it would be easy for you guys to remember this stuff as well. So union of two glucose molecules, just glucose. Okay, remember monosaccharides, glucose, galactose, and fructose, right? So here, two glucose makes a maltose, and it's an intermediate product of starch hydrolysis. So starch is made by photosynthesis. So this starch is converted into disaccharides and then glucose molecules. So maltose is basically that. uh, and glucose. So then you have sucrose, which is glucose and fructose. Remember the bee honey and sweet one that we said as fructose? It's combined, fructose is combined with glucose in this case to produce sucrose and water. So you can see this in like jaggery and everything, like uh, sweet stuff, white sugar, brown sugar, sucrose. It consists of sucrose. So remember this as well: glucose, fructose, sucrose, and water. And then you can see lactose in dairy products. So as I said before, glucose and galactose. Galactose, remember, is the one in dairy products which has no sweetness. So this galactose is combined with glucose and to form lactose and water. So when you write, remember to write water with the product as well. It's very important. So union of glucose molecule forms a lactose molecule, glucose and galactose. And so this is very important, these two. The only sugar that is absent in plants and not sweet as sucrose. Guys, if you can write down what I'm highlighting, it would be really good because these are like really important parts that you might forget during your exam. You might like confuse, So lactose, which is made of galactose and glucose, is the only sugar that is absent in plants and produced by animals. So it's not sweet as sucrose because galactose is not sweet as well, right? Remember, they said it's not sweet. So lactose is not sweet as sucrose. And you can see percentage of lactose in cow's milk is 4% to 6%, and in human milk it's 6% to 7%. And for today's last part, I'll be doing polysaccharides, and then next day we can we will end here, and then we can move on to the next part the next day. So polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are basically the union of large number of monosaccharides. So remember, I drew like the structures of monosaccharides. So when you combine those monosaccharides, a large number of monosaccharides together, you can find a polysaccharide made up. This hydrolysis of this product, which is the polysaccharide, results in monosaccharides as usual, the structural unit. So there's a difference. The previous one, you can remember, they both were like monosaccharides and disaccharides. They were kind of same, right? But in this polysaccharides, it's not soluble. So it's insoluble in water, not crystals. And as previously, there are three important ones, which is cellulose, starch, and glycogen. So you can see down here, cellulose is present in cell wall of plant cells, and in fibers. So cell wall of the plant cell, you learn the plant cell in chapter 6, I guess. And then there's a thing called cell wall around the plant. So the cell wall is produced of cellulose, and also in fibers you can see cellulose. So this is not digested in the human digestive system, but also helps to avoid constipation. So um, it's good for constipation, like to avoid constipation, but at the same time, it does not digest in the human system. Also, remember cellulose, it's all about monosaccharides, but they do not mention for this grade level, like what monosaccharides combine to form cellulose and all, right? So starch, glucose is the structural unit, like the main one. And it's the main type of carbohydrate that's stored in plants. It's very important in plants is starch. The main type of carbohydrate in plants is starch. Remember that, guys. It's very important. And glycogen is the main type of carbohydrate that consists in animal body. So in our bodies, it's glycogen, and in plant bodies, it's starch. So remember that because it's very important. I hope I'm not too fast because I'm trying my best to speak slowly, and like I sometimes tremble on my words, and or because it's kind of hard for me when like I speak like very slow because I'm very usually like very fast speaker, and like yes, fast, I'm kind of fast in thinking, and also I'm sorry if I'm too fast, but you can let me know if I'm too fast. I'll make it very slow as well. And I'm sorry for trembling on words and like making if I'm making you confused. I hope that on in our next session it will be okay, like much better than this as well. Oh, this is for extra knowledge as well as I showed you like the previous structure. It's like this. Yeah. Yeah, you can see like this is not important. Like don't try to remember this. This is kind of hard. So don't like, think much about it. Just remember okay, this is there and all. So moving on to our last part of this session. So significance of carbohydrates. So this is basically the importance of carbohydrates that we should learn and like keep in mind. So this is used as an energy source. So you see for energy of organisms, carbohydrates is very important. So monosaccharides is produced during hydrolysis, which is monosaccharides, the glucose, you remember, as a storage compound to store various compounds, as a structural component in plant cell wall, and as a constituent of nucleic acid. So guys, I think you have to like study those four. Um, as a structural component, as I said, plant cell wall. Cellulose is the storage compound, energy source. So monosaccharides and all are very important, and nucleic acids.